Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the channel. We have a very interesting concept today for our chess video. We are comparing two chess openings. We are comparing the King's Indian Defense and the Grünfeld Defense. This is mainly because on the chess.com opening roulette this week, the position that they give us lends itself to playing either the Grünfeld or the King's Indian. It's meant to be the King's Indian, but they haven't made all the moves. The position they give us is like this. This is the position that they give us. If we go back just a sec, this is the position that chess.com has been giving us. And this is meant to be the King's Indian, particularly after knight to f3. Or knight to c3 rather. But because of this, you can play a Grünfeld, as we've spoken about before with d5. That is something that can be played. You can also go for the traditional King's Indian with bishop here and d6. So what are the differences? Well, let's remind ourselves of the opening of the King's Indian. Knight to f3, castles, bishop e2, e5, castles, knight c6, d5, knight to e7. And you can see that the King's Indian ends up with this locked structure where white's got really advanced pawns and black's structure looks like this. And black's plan is to attack on the king's side with f5, g5, g6, h5, h4. And white's plan is to go on the queen's side and to break through like that and to just, not get mated on the king's side. So how does that compare to the Grünfeld with d5 all the way back here? Well, let's follow the main line of the Grünfeld. Knight to we capture, e5, castle, take, bishop here, bishop to c4, c5, knight to e2. Instead, bishop e3, castles. And what you see here is you've got a far more open game. There are still tactics lying in the center. The center's not locked. There's no, black's not going to be playing f5 in the future because the center's not locked. They can still maybe commit the e-pawn there, but, the bishop's still got to come out. Still hasn't developed. White, in the traditional main line of the Grünfeld, we've obviously explored it before with the knight on f3. In fact, let's go into that line with knight to f3, because I think this really highlights the differences between the two. And even not the one with rook b1, with bishop to e3, this line. This really showcases the differences. Where in the King's Indian, you've seen like these positions be locked and, castles. The Grünfeld is so much more dynamic. I'm going to keep flicking between positions. Back here. Compare this position where you've got all the pieces basically still on the board. No exchanges. This bishop's not open. This bishop really doesn't have a future if black plays h6. This bishop is staring at its pawns. The only piece that can really move are the knights, but you've got to really make progress with the pawns. And compare that with this position. This position here. Not even this position. Where we want to go is here. Compare that with this. So we've got here after knight c6. And we're comparing it with here 97. Look at the placement of the pieces. Look at the pawn structure. It is so different. And it lends itself very nicely to what you want to play. So tell me in the comments, what do you prefer? King's Indian structure? Grünfeld structure? I just wanted to make a video to talk about it because they all spawn from this. C4, G6. You can enter either one with this, and they both can be in your repertoire. Maybe with white, you're like, I definitely want to commit to a King's Indian. But you can't play knight here because Grünfeld. So you need to know that. So if you want to avoid a Grünfeld, maybe you need to play f3 same-ish. Maybe you need to play knight to f3 because then it forces this. But even then, Grünfeld. This happened to me in one of my recent games where I was outsmarted by a bunch of kids. This is what I was talking about because I really wanted to avoid a Grünfeld. But this is just a delayed Grünfeld. This is the 3 knights variation because you could still get takes, e4, takes, and c5. And now we're back in a Grünfeld, mainline Grünfeld with knight to f3, which you've already shown, is a dangerous variation where you've got to play like this. We're just back in the Grünfeld. so g6, maybe you're like, okay, well, same-ish is probably the way you want to go if you want to commit to a mainline Indian, King's Indian, if you want to play that with white. Or maybe with white, you're like, I don't really want to play King's Indian because I always struggle to fend off this kingside attack. Well, you don't have to. You can play knight here. Hope for them the Grünfeld. Remember, it does rest with black. Black can play here, and then you've got no choice, really. You can play knight to f3, which is another stalling move. You can play h3 as a stalling move. If black wants King's Indian, they're going to get the King's Indian setup. But also, you can play it where, in this position, like we go all these moves, knight to f3, castles here, e5, you can castle again, and then here, you don't have to push. You could take, or you could play like bishop here and get a repetition. There's a couple of other moves. Bishop to e3 is not well played, but if you don't want the structure to be locked and you don't want f5 to be a problem, you can get something we probably wouldn't take with the bishop. We would capture with the knight, capture, get all of this, c5 probably. No, c5 makes too much of a weakness. b6, yeah. b6, and then we would allow this, and this is a structure that you can improve. And it just amazes me the way chess gets played, where from this position, you've got a whole host of moves. And remember, black's committed to this, but how quickly could you turn this into, if you play knight to f3, bishop here, d6, you can play f4, and get the 4 pawns attack of the King's Indian, and now you've got something else. So tell me, ladies and gentlemen, do you find this as fascinating to me, or have I bored you for how long has it been? 6 minutes. I'm sorry. Tell me what you think in the comments down below. I just made a short video. It goes with the last 2 opening videos we've done, and I just found it really interesting. So tell me what you think in the comments down below.